Well, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at. I just want to share that today it's my partner Francis and I. We've been having a guest today. We didn't have a guest because we were just going to move forward. It was a short reading, and we figured, you know what, the topic all kind of blends together, so we can handle it. So we decided we'd do it. So we asked for God's blessings as we come forward, and I'm going to share and begin with our readings for. Let's see here. The readings are for this coming Sunday, which is the 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time. For here in the United States, it'll be August 10th. Sunday falls August 10th. and the following are the readings. So I'm going to go ahead and read, the first two. I'll ask my friend to join with the second reading, and then I'll follow with the gospel. Before we get started, I do want to share share something about the readings today. Not every Sunday is quite like this, where all of the readings in the same Mass all kind of mesh together. In some ways, you can make almost any readings, I guess, really ultimately kind of see the similarities. But these, I'm going to share with you in advance, are going to be mainly around faith. You're going to hear faith from Abraham, faith from Moses, faith from St. Peter. I mean, it's just the theme is faith, and you're going to continue to hear how faith is the way to go. I think we know that, but these readings show you in the Bible that with faith, we will get to heaven, to our treasures, as you'll see. One of the definitions that I have for faith, because, often people say, oh, what's your faith? And for people that don't know, say, what is your faith? I normally respond something similar to this. I don't remember very well. So I kind of respond, but it's basically this definition. I like this definition, that faith is a virtue. It is something that you have through practice. It's a virtue, that enables us to believe in God and his teachings, even when we cannot see or fully understand. So I like that definition. It basically is what's faith? Well, it's about believing in Jesus, everything that Jesus does. Even if I don't see it, I believe it. I like that definition of faith. And then some people may challenge, well, then what's the difference between faith and hope? Well, hope is more of an expectation. It is a virtue that enables us to desire and expect God's blessings and salvations and to persevere in difficult circumstances. How often when we're in a difficult situation, we're saying, I hope this happens. I hope. Well, that's what you're saying. You're desiring and expecting God's will, God's blessings, and God's salvation. So I thought I'd share that because I could almost have shared these with each one of our readings today, but I'm going to consider faith as being the umbrella for all of the readings. So with that, I will continue, and I'll do as we've done in the past. I will read, I'll read the reading. We'll stop. I'll give you my thoughts and opinion. If Francis has something to add, wonderful. But the reason we put this together, this forum, is for you to be able to have a chance to read it, reread it, see what some people think when they read that, and then you interpret your own prayer. That's the Holy Spirit, So Francis and I, we just offer kind of our outlook on this reading. Doesn't make them right, doesn't make them perfect, but it kind of starts the discussion. With that, let us begin. And here comes our first reading. The first reading, Wisdom 18, verses 6 through 9. The night of the Passover was known beforehand to our fathers, that with sure knowledge of the oaths in which they put their faith, they might have courage. Your people awaited the salvation of the just and the destruction of their foes. For when you punished our adversaries, in this you glorified us whom you had summoned. For in secret the holy children of the good were offering sacrifice and putting into effect with one accord the divine institution. So wisdom. Now, something to take note of is wisdom is in the Old Testament. This is one of those that is in reference to Moses. All right, so I think I have some highlighted points here. So what I interpret here is what I hear the fathers. The Passover was known beforehand to our fathers. Well, to me, that is Moses and it's Aaron. It was the elders of the group. Remember, they're just 40 years in the desert. They had somebody to follow, and prior to that, they didn't know they were going to the desert. They had no idea. All they knew is that they were going to be escaped. That was the goal. The goal is escape. Who did they learn that from? From Moses, from Aaron. So to me, this is a reading about the value of having our ancestors already defining some of what we believe in as faith. They had faith that if they followed what was asked of them to put, the blood and to have the ceremony, they would have only done that with faith. They did it with faith, and guess what? It all worked out. So this is a salvation for the Israelites and the destruction of Egyptians. What I mean by that is, you when you read this, the other thing behind this reading is that it's like a good bad. I mean, good was Israel trying to escape, right? So there's one part, and this is the salvation. So it was a positive thing. Why? Because they had faith, they believed, and the enemy at this time were the Egyptians. They were the ones that were destroyed. Simple principle here that we're going to hear throughout the other readings too. Faith is good, unfaithfulness bad. So good will be saved and the bad will die. And that sounds very harsh and very direct. But that's the way, that's the way a lot of our scriptures are written. So I'm going to stop there and share that's kind of what I received from this first reading, and wanted to see, Francis, if you had anything to add.
Yes, Professor. As a Catholic, as a Christian, I think faith is very important in our life, because in faith, we can get to know about the miracles in our life. Even we don't have the faith, even the miracles happen in our life, we cannot recognize them. Faith is very important, and if we have faith, then we can face all the challenges in our life. Thank you, Professor.
Oh no, that's the core. Thank you. I'm and you can see even with challenges, ultimately, to exactly what you said, Francis, we ultimately win. And you'll hear that in one of the readings coming up. But let's move on. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read us the psalm. I'm not going to read the entire psalm. I'm just going to read the highlight, the thing that that we repeat. And in this particular one, it's blessed the people the Lord has chosen to be his own. Now, I'm not going to read through the entire psalm, but I do want to highlight this. Many times when we're in church, we hear the psalms and it's almost like an intermission. Well, it's not an intermission. It's a prayer also. It's a prayer. Most of the prayers derived from, our King David. So here it's blessed the people the Lord has chosen to be his own. Well, we just heard in our first reading who was chosen. Moses. Moses had his brother Aaron and had other, had his sister Miriam, had a bunch of other, seniors or elders that assisted. Those were the chosen ones, and those were the ones that were blessed. One of the highlights in the first paragraph or refrain is the people he has chosen. Okay, so one of the things to know about people he's chosen is at the very beginning, it's no secret he chose the Israelites. He himself was from that area, and that's who the promised land was promised to at this point. When we say the people he has chosen, well, what about these people that are chosen? Well, they have divine favor. And if you think about it, this is the way I look at this, is that God offers that favor to everybody. Everybody. That's what it means. To be chosen by God. Every one of us is chosen. Every one of us has a favor within God. God made us each individual for a reason, but He gave us favor and protection as long as we believe in that favor and that protection. Back to the definition that Francis just talked about in faith and the value of faith, and the other topic that we talk about, hope. Faith, hope, charity. That's why we continue to hear those three things. With that, we are the proven chosen. Because in my belief, everybody's chosen to be good. Everybody is chosen to enter the kingdom of heaven. So the ticket's already been given to you. If you don't get there, that's because you chose not to get there. At least that's my belief. All who believe in Christ, both Jew and Gentile. That's another one that's chosen. You can see it started with the Israelites, opened up into the Gentiles, and now the chosen is everybody. Everybody is part of the message that came from the Old Testament to the New Testament with Jesus and Peter and all, was especially during the beginning of the apostles. And as they went out and started preaching, they started being challenged. Hey, we focused on the Jewish community initially, but really what Jesus and what God wanted was for us to spread this to all people, not just the Jews, but also the Gentiles. And once you're chosen, again, as Francis mentioned, we're blessed, but we have a responsibility. That's a whole other discussion. But yes, we're blessed, but we're blessed with God wanting us to continue to do more in our communities to help others. And the second paragraph, upon fear Him. Again, to be chosen and to have faith is to fear Him. In the respect, I like the definition of filial fear, meaning we fear disappointing Him. We know the commandments. We know the laws. We know the dogmas. We know the doctrines. We know all of those things. But do we follow them all the time? No. But what helps many of us like myself, have this fear. Well, that fear is not I'm scared. Oh, that something bad's going to happen. For me, the fear is I fear to disappoint, and that's why I try, and I try over and over and over. And then at the very bottom, you can see He puts our hope in you. As we're saying, an expectation. A hope is you have a desire, an expectation for it to come. So those were my highlights on the psalm. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Francis.
Yes, I would like to say about the faith. Faith is like a breeze. When we want to cross, we have the faith in narrow bridge, because we have to completely admit to God ourselves. Then we will think about the divine favor is with us at the time of walking on the narrow bridge. So yes, so there is not sufficient to keep our food, but we can cross the bridge because of the faith.
Awesome. You have the trust, right? You trust because you're so faithful. You trust that there's going to be that connection. Once you get on that bridge, okay, no matter whether it sways or it moves, it doesn't matter. You have trust that you're going to get to it. You remind me of some of the readings we had during the week, and there was discussion of one of them was Elijah, going up, and the transfiguration we heard recently, and for all of these, are those things of, to your point, that I think of those stairs. They keep talking about, we had that reading during the week about the stairs, where we see and vision, this white glorious person at the top and all the angels. And so anyway, I find it, that's what I think about. When you said the bridge, I was thinking, yes, that bridge to heaven. We have to have confidence that if we have faith in that bridge, it's going to be sturdy, it's going to get us there, as long as we trust that bridge is solid for. Thank you, Francis. And I think even not only, I think to that last bullet that I have where it says responsibility, to kind of continue on your point, we have a responsibility also. Because we're chosen doesn't mean, oh, we're chosen, let's just sit down, take it easy, we don't have to do nothing, because God's got us under control. No, there are expectations and responsibilities and accountabilities that come with us being chosen. With that, I'm going to go to the second reading. I'm going to ask Francis if he'll read this, and then I'll go ahead and follow up with some of the discussion.
Second reading, the letter to Hebrews, chapter 11, verses 1 to 2, 8 to 12. Brothers and sisters, faith is the realization of what is hoped for and evidence of things not seen. Because of it, the ancient were well attested by faith. Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. He went out, not knowing where he was to go. By faith, he sojourned in the promised land as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, heirs of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and maker is God. By faith, he received power to generate, even though he was past the normal age, and Sarah herself was sterile. For he thought that the one who had made the promise was trustworthy. So it was that there came forth from one man, himself, as good as dead, descendants as numerous as stars in the sky, and as countless as the sands on the seashore. The word of the Lord.
Well, thanks
Thanks,
to God on that. That was fantastic. And I again, look at how many times faith, faith. And even in the Bible, I shared with you the definition that I liked. I looked it up one time. I don't know, I think on chat or something. But that's the faith that I like. Well, it's right here. It's the same thing. Faith is the realization of what is hoped for, and even with the evidence of things not seen. We talked about that earlier as one of the definitions. Well, we don't make up these things. These are in the Bible. I was talking to my son the other day, and I said, you know what? One thing people don't realize is that the Bible has answers to every part of your life. You don't realize it till you start getting into it, going, there is a lesson for every part, every happy, sad, indifferent situation we are in our lives. There is a response on how to act in the Bible. But again, I just wanted to emphasize how the value of it, that here's that definition that I think the thing is most to remember is you don't see it, and Francis was taken, as Francis mentioned, faith is the foundation. We're talking about that bridge, those stairs to heaven, and faith is the foundation by which Abraham lived by. So think about it. There's I didn't highlight this one liner there, but he goes out and he's going out to a place he doesn't know where he's going. He's just like, okay, I'm being directed to go here. That's faith. That's faith, man. You're headed to somewhere you don't even know, to a foreign country. He went out and said, whatever you say, God, I'm listening, and tell me I'm your servant. Let me move forward. The other thing I like about this is, remember, Hebrews, as Francis alluded at the very beginning, it's a reading, one of the readings from Paul, right? The New Testament. But look how the New Testament is talking about the Old Testament. What I love about it, I know there are religions that only focus on the New Testament. I realize that. But without this connection, here we are, the apostles of Jesus are now referencing, once again, the faith of Abraham as the examples of our forefather. So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize why I value so much the Old Testament, because it feeds into what there is to come. The New Testament shows the validation of what we were told was going to come. And then both of old age, I mean, talk about faith. As you recall, some of you may recall in the story, They're kind of on the side. It's kind of, but she goes, oh, by the way, when we come back a year from now, your wife will have a baby. And she's in the background. She's laughing. She's like, yeah, whatever. I don't think this guy knows how old I am, you know. But here's the reality. The reality is, what another miracle of faith, where it's like, okay, you know, she chuckled and she laughed a little bit, but Abraham was, man, if that's what you're saying, I trust you. I trust you. And Lord and behold, the father and the mother of many, many generations. Thank you for that reading. I'm going to get to the gospel now. I'll forewarn you, the gospel is a little lengthy, but as much as I tried to mesh it all together, it really has two different kind of messages. The first message is we're going to hear, you know, is a parable. And then the second part of the gospel is basically Peter asking, was that a parable or was that for us? And what did it mean? Okay, so here comes a parable, and I'll run right into then the discussion with the apostles. The gospel according to Luke, chapter 12, verses 32 to 48. Jesus said to his disciples, do not be afraid any longer, little flock, for your Father is pleased to give you the kingdom. Sell your belongings and give alms. Provide money bags for yourselves that do not wear out, and an inexhaustible treasure in heaven that no thief can reach nor moth destroy. For where your treasure is, there also will your heart be. Gird your loins and light your lamps, and be like servants who await their master's return from a wedding, ready to open and immediately when he comes and knocks. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds vigilant on his arrival. Amen, I say to you, he will gird himself, have them recline at the table, and proceed to wait on them. And should he come in the second or third watch and find them prepared in this way, blessed are those servants. Be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come. Then Peter said, Lord, is this parable meant for us or for everyone? And the Lord replied, who then is the faithful of the prudent steward, whom the master will put in charge of his servants to distribute the food allowance at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master on arrival finds doing so. Truly I say to you, the master will put the servant in charge of all his property. But if that servant says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, and begins to beat the men servants and the maid servants to eat and drink and get drunk, then that servant's master will come on an unexpected day and at an unknown hour, and will punish the servant severely and assign him a place with the unfaithful. That servant who knew his master's will, but did not make preparations nor act in accord with his will, shall be beaten severely. And the servant who was ignorant of his master's will, but acted in a way deserving of the severe beating, shall be beaten only lightly. Much will be required of the person trusted with much, and still more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more. So we'll get to a couple of these highlights, okay? Because there were some strong one-liners. The first part of the gospel, first part is, where is your treasure? You know, it's like, you know, kind of back to, you know, this, and it is a parable. So Jesus is basically saying, hey, look, you can go and act and do all kind of things that look promising, but if they're not from the heart, they don't mean anything, because your heart was there for the wrong reasons, to be recognized or to win an award or to whatever it may be, versus it was deep in your heart. But if your heart is you do good things and you help people, you know, and you do all that we're being asked to as Christians, if you do that, then I can just look at your actions and know that your treasure is in heaven and you're walking toward. That's where it says, you know, for where your treasure is, there also will your heart be. You know, so it's kind of hard to fake it. Some people, you know, fake being goody good and this and that. You know, I don't want to get too, you know, too far fetched, but I think you know my point. My point being is your heart needs to be in a good place for you to do good actions. If it's sincere, then even when people aren't seeing, even when Jesus isn't around, you're doing what is right because that just happens to be where your heart's at. And always be ready and on guard to serve. I think I found this. I created this image to the bottom right where there's somebody reading. Jesus shows up and just happens to be Jesus. I'm right here reading the Bible. You know, now that's a great picture. You know, but it does remind me on a story I shared in one of the previous sessions where I said to my grandmother, that was her response on why we needed to clean the house. You know, everything, clean your area because what if Jesus shows up today? And I remember, wow, Jesus showed up today. Yeah, I got to look good. My area's got to look good. You know, and that's basically what it's saying. Be prepared. You don't know when he's going to come. You don't know when he's going to be in your presence. And usually comes in a form you're not expecting. He doesn't show up like any of the images that we see of Jesus. He just shows up in your neighbor. He shows up in your children, in your enemies. Jesus is there, you know, so be on watch all the time. If you're ready and prepared, you will be blessed, and if not, punished. Ooh, another one of those just really hard stories, right? It's like there's no messing around here. It's basically you do God's will, and you do it with all your might, with all your heart, and all your might. You're going to be blessed. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to know that that's where your treasure's at, and all your actions are there. Do we fall? Of course we fall. You know, but we get up and remember. Okay, where's my treasure? There it is. Let me get back on track to get to my treasures in heaven by doing good, even though I just slipped and did bad. But if we have that, we're not going to be punished. You know, this is basically saying if you just decide you're gonna just put a show on. I'm going to church to show God, hey, I went to church, you know, or I give a donation. Okay, without your heart, those things, they'll be punished. I'm not the judge. God will be that judge, but he will judge us based on our actions. We also have accountability increases with blessings. That's another one of those, you know. We probably have recognized that even in our lives, maybe in work. Many of us know that. Why is it always that the person that does a lot of work is asked to do even more? Sometimes those people can look back, but what about those people over there? We're equals. Why aren't you on there? Well, it's just almost a natural thing when you are a leader that if you need something that needs good care, you're going to give it to somebody who's responsible. And then when they come through and do what you ask, you give them more and you give them more. It's just almost a natural thing. Well, we're the same ways. When we start getting stronger in faith, God doesn't put the brakes on and go, okay, you've hit your limit. No, till the day we die, we should be learning more and more and more. Why? Because the more we're sincere, the more blessings we're going to have and the more expectations we're going to be having. So just remember that. You know, it comes with a little pain, if you want to call it that, but it's worth the reward at the end. And wastefulness of talent and accountability will be punished. That's another one of those things. It's like, again, a little harsh. It's a harsh message, but the message is clear, right? The message is very clear. God has given you the talent to sing for God. God has given you the talent to write for God. God has given you the talent to be a hard worker and charitable and helping people. Do all those things. Because if you don't, you'll be punished. You'll be punished. It's that simple. But you'll be rewarded. Don't have to be perfect, but as long as you're following that treasure, we will be fine. Any comments from you, Francis, on this? This was a long one, but your thoughts? Any other additional comments?
Yes, Professor, I totally agree with you. And I would like to add from my uh, knowing on understanding, like that is here fulfills the two commandments also, because if we have the faith, then we can keep our faith in God, and there will be the hope also. And as you said, there is a reward for us, and according to our actions. So there is also we can fulfill another second commandment from God, is that love our neighbor as ourselves. So we can treat them as ourselves.
Excellent.
So so there is a challenges in our life on this earth. Our action will be counted, according to the God, according to our action, how we treat our neighbors. So the treasure will be in heaven. So there is a connect
That's a
there.
great.
So if we have faith, then our action will be according to our hope. We will get the reward in heaven. Thank you, Professor.
No. I think it's a great compliment, to simplicity, right? You sometimes when we read this, like, oh man, I'll never make it to heaven. I'm not good enough, and it's so complicated. I got to read the whole Bible. I think what Francis just did is simplified it. You want to treasure, and you don't want to make it difficult with 10 commandments and all these rules and all these rights. I'm not saying to dismiss them, like the catechism. There's a reason for the Bible. There's a reason for the catechism. I'm not saying to dismiss them. I'm just saying, if you bring it back and try not to get overcomplicated, remember what Francis just said. Just remember two things. There's one God and one God alone, and we cherish and love and have faith in that God, hoping to get to heaven, and then treat your neighbor as yourself. That's pretty easy, right? I think that's where and I'm glad you brought that up, Francis, because sometimes we look at this going, it's just asking too much. It's just too much. I can't do it. There's too many things to do. No, it's very simple. Pray, share your God, through faith, through hope, through charity, through love. Do that, man. You're there. But anyway, for that, I thank you. Thank you for your participation. Thanks for your help, Francis. And for now, that's all we have. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday readings, all. And God bless you.